Hello everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Completion by Design. This is the second in a 5-part series of programs on this topic that began last December and will run through February. Our subject today is Structured Programs of Study. I'm Bill Joyner of the North Carolina Community College System's Learning Solutions Center, and I'll be your host for the session. Our guest this afternoon is Kristi Short. Kristi is the Implementation Director of Completion by Design at Guilford Technical Community College in Jamestown, North Carolina. Prior to joining Completion by Design, Kristi taught communication studies for 6 years and coordinated GTCC's 35 completely online programs for 1 year. She earned an MA in Communication Studies from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and is currently enrolled in the EDS program in higher education with a concentration in community college and university leadership at Appalachian State University. I'm going to turn the program over to Kristi in just a moment, but first, if you have any questions, I encourage you to ask them. You can do that at any point during the presentation by typing them into the Q&A box located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Ms. Short will address them during or after the presentation. For those questions that require additional time to answer, you'll be notified when we find the information you need. Let me mention, too, that this presentation is being recorded and should be available on successnc.org within about a week. You'll get an automatic notification when it's posted there, where it will join our growing collection of interesting webinars and videos. And quickly looking ahead, our next Completion by Design webinar will be held this Friday, January 17th. The topic will be Building Stakeholder Engagement, presented by Allison Cadleck of Public Agenda. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you'll have an opportunity to register for that event. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to Kristi Short. It's all yours, Kristi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this webinar and giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. We are discussing program realignment and the process that Guilford Tech went through to realign some of our programs of study. Some of what we'll talk about today relates to college transfer programs, which are now covered by the soon-to-be voted on Comprehensive Articulation Agreement. So that portion may not be quite as relevant to your needs to realign programs, but at least you can learn about our process and how we went about it. I think that some lessons learned would be applicable to the work that you still have to do on that portion. So starting at the beginning with program realignment, the first stage that we had to go through was to plan which programs we wanted to investigate. So we were interested in making the most difference with the first programs we tackled. We chose those based on enrollment and need. So in terms of enrollment, probably about 40% of our students are in college transfer programs. And the main ones of those would be the Associate in Arts and Associate in Science. Our most popular Associate of Applied Science program was Business Administration, followed by Computer Information Technology and Computer Programming. When I talk about need, it's the need to have more structure in a program. Our Associate in Arts and Associate in Science programs were very loosely organized. We didn't have a semester-by-semester plan for those. There were requirements in the catalog, take 3 courses from 2 disciplines, and just gave a list of 20-some courses. So there was very, very little structure for those college transfer programs, and we knew that we had to do better with those. So that's another reason beyond enrollment why we picked those programs. We knew that we had to get faculty representation on this team because faculty were going to be affected by the decisions made for realigning programs, and beyond students, they were going to be the group most impacted by those. And so it's critical that we had faculty input and faculty voices on the team. So I emailed department chairs of the programs that are represented here and asked for a faculty representative. So this served to let the department chairs know what was going on and to get their expertise and input on who would be the best faculty member from their program to join the team and help contribute to the work. We through the Completion by Design grant, had a course release per committee member. That course release, because of the amount of work that people did on this committee, was welcome. It could be done without the course release, but it is a significant amount of work, at least what our team went through, similar to maybe something like a curriculum committee or another working committee on your campus. So we got representation from these departments that are listed, and then we did not have official representation from communication and foreign language or physical sciences, but because, as Bill said, I was formerly a faculty member in the communication foreign language department, I spoke on their behalf, and then our biology faculty member represented physical sciences. We scheduled weekly meetings for this team because, as I'm sure you all know, it's much easier to schedule meetings and get people used to the idea to regularly attend meetings than it is to not schedule as many and then try to make up and schedule additional ones. So we scheduled meetings weekly, and it was a good thing we did because we really needed those weekly meetings. We probably would not have made nearly the progress we did in such a short amount of time had we only met every other week. We began these meetings by introducing the program realignment concept, talking about structured programs. We distributed copies of the Community College Research Center working paper, The Shapeless River by Judith Scott Clayton, to everyone so that they could read through those following the meeting. I'm sure that that resource is available to you. If you haven't read it yet, then I would recommend it. It is very convincing about why structured program is important and can help our students complete. We developed a research strategy collaboratively. Faculty are smart, engaged people, and it was important that they got to figure out what we were going to do as a team. Nobody was coming down from above and saying, this is how you're going to go about it. Put our minds together and figured out the best way to approach it. And so the first thing we did was look at other institutions' programs. We looked at innovators like the New Community College in New York City and Valencia College. We looked at programs for other completion by design colleges in Ohio like Sinclair and Florida, Miami-Dade. And then we looked at other CBD colleges in North Carolina to see if there were any commonalities in their programs and how they differed from our own program. The faculty on the team then investigated college transfer information, read through the comprehensive articulation agreement on the North Carolina Community College System website. And we decided that we would look a little bit further into transfer. And the committee just said, well, let's all just pick a North Carolina institution. Some picked their alma mater, some picked where our students transfer. And we'll see how our courses go over there and map out whether our course transfers as a general education course to the university. And so we got back the next week and started discussing courses. I kind of just threw out the question jokingly, do we have a gen ed course that transfers to all 16 state universities? Somebody would say, okay, well, let's look at Psych 150. And then we'd go around the room and somebody would inevitably say, nope, nope, doesn't go here. And we just went through course by course that way for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and decided we needed a more systematic way to go about this, that just writing things on the whiteboard wasn't going to help. So we assigned 2 of the UNC schools to each faculty member on the team, and they looked course for course whether the general education core course we taught at the community college transferred to the university for general education credit course for course, and then logged those results in a SkyDrive Excel sheet. And SkyDrive is like Google Docs, where it allows multiple people to contribute to the same document and updates in real time. And so this was great. We weren't emailing a document back and forth. We were all working on the same one. And the result of this research is what is commonly called the spreadsheet. You'll see here on the far left in column A, these are the general education core courses that we offered at Guilford Tech. Across the top are the 16 state universities, and all the way over there on the right is a column that shows how many schools do not take that course as general elective credit. So we mapped this for all of the gen ed courses that we taught here using information available on the university's websites. And in some instances, we made phone calls to the universities to try to get the most updated information, but most of it did come from university websites. We were surprised at these results. We found that, as many of you by now have probably learned, that the Comprehensive Articulation Agreement was not being honored at all the 16 schools. We had one person call a university, and the university said it doesn't matter if the student has the degree. We go through course by course and decide if we're going to award gen ed credit for that student. Just because they have the associate degree does not mean that all their gen eds will be met, which is in direct violation of the Articulation Agreement. So we realized that that really was not being honored. And our initial research found that English 111 was accepted at all 16 state universities, but subsequent research showed that no course went to all 16 state universities as a gen ed requirement. In terms of what we taught at Guilford Tech, 36%, so a little over a third, transferred to 3/4 of the universities as gen ed credit, but about the same amount transferred to fewer than half as gen ed credit. And this was a big wake-up call for the faculty on the team. So as we decided to make our revised plans, we took a number of things into consideration. One was student preparedness. Our school offers English 111, 112, and 114. We don't offer the 113. The faculty in the English department and the representative from the English department on this committee were concerned that 114 was not adequately preparing students for upper level composition analysis work. So we, as a committee and in consultation with the English department, decided that 112 would better prepare students, and we did not recommend 114 for our college transfer plans. We looked at transferability according to the spreadsheet findings. Those were not that was not the only criterion we used for our decision, but we did consider transferability. There were a couple of courses that transferred to only 1 or 2 state universities, and we could not, in good faith, recommend our students take those courses if they weren't going over as gen ed credit. We also considered teaching resources. So here, we don't have a full-time anthropology person. So we declined to put anthropology in our core because we didn't have anybody to teach it. And we figured whatever we put in our core, there would be more demand for. So that is on the plan as an elective, but not as one of our core social behavioral sciences. We also had input from departments. So we went back to the physical sciences department and said, for the AA, do you think our students should take 131 or 151, or does it matter? Should we have both of them in the plan? And the department chair came back very strongly and said, no, it needs to be 131. If the student's not a science major, then 131 is the better course for that student. So this is a summary of the changes we made in the AA. There are 14 general education courses required for the degree, and you can see the breakdown there in that second column. In our 2012-2013 catalog, we had 107 courses that would meet those 14 requirements. And then the breakdown is listed there below. Probably the most telling is that we had 46 opportunities for someone to choose humanities fine art course for only 4 requirements. And so students were overwhelmed by the number of choices they had in that area. Our 2013-2014 catalog We have reduced the number of choices to help students make a decision, but we still have quite a few courses. So there is an element of choice, except for the English composition, where we do have just that 112 instead of the 114. But you see everywhere else the students do have choices for their core requirements. The asterisk there means that an upper level course may be substituted. So for Spanish, for example, Spanish 111 is included in that 21 count, but 112, 211, and 212 is not included in that count. Our AAS programs were a little bit different and in a way less complicated because there were fewer departments who were trying to find agreement onto one degree plan. But it was helpful for us, for those technical faculty, to be there in the room and hear the arts and science faculty going through the process of talking through these decisions and what courses we should keep in our core and which ones should become electives and not core courses. And I think that the technical faculty got a much better appreciation for some of the struggles that the students go through working through the AA and AS program realignment too. So this chart just summarizes the changes we made for some of the technical programs. You can see for business administration, we dropped the program 6 credit hours. One of those classes was using a contextualized math course rather than 2 different math classes. That program included business math and math 140. There was the math faculty member there on the committee as well as the business faculty member. And so they had a conversation one day during the committee meeting and asked, what is it that you're trying to get out of including that business math course? And so the business faculty member, who also happened to be the department chair, explained, and the math faculty said, but we do that in 140. You know, we cover those concepts. And so after additional discussions, they decided to drop that business math and just use the 140 because it had the concepts that they wanted in that. There was also a general local elective where it was choose from a list of 12 to 15 courses, and they're all over the board in business. And so there wasn't a clear reason why those courses in particular were there as an elective. It didn't provide any kind of concentration to the student. It was just an extra course. And it was hard to argue that that course made the degree more meaningful when the students had a very broad selection from within that. And we also looked at the sequencing of this program. For example, moving personal finance from the 3rd semester up to the 1st semester to make sure students thought about their credit and could get their credit in better shape by the time they graduated so it wouldn't affect their job prospects. And we looked at sequencing for other courses as well. And I just remind you that the curriculum standards for these programs were 64 credit hours as a state minimum. We were up to 74 in business administration, 70 for computer information technology, and 73 for programming. So we were able to drop those credit hours somewhat. For computer information technology and programming, we also reduced the local requirements. There was an extra course in there that the state did not mandate, and so we were able to remove the course and then streamline the choice of electives. So instead of choose from any of these 40 humanities classes, the departments thought about which courses are going to best serve our students and then chose a limited number of humanities courses to help guide the students in their selection. We use this analogy of the Hurt Locker in our presentations that we made to faculty. If you've seen the movie, then you know that Jeremy Renner's character is a bomb specialist in Iraq. He can make life or death decisions, cut the blue wire, the red wire, and go confidently about this very dangerous job. However, when he comes back to the U.S., he goes to the grocery store and is paralyzed by this wall of cereal. He can't make a decision too many choices. And so we think this is what our students experience when they are offered this broad array of electives without having guidance about what would best suit their program or their interests. So how did we communicate this and roll this out to people at the college and get some more buy-in from folks? We first had a presentation to department chairs. The committee felt very strongly that everyone in the committee should join in this presentation as, I guess, just a show of support and to indicate the amount of group effort and collaboration that went into the project. So we did a presentation to department chairs first. Let's see, here's a question here. Let me finish this thought and then I'll address the question. But we did our presentation to department chairs first so that they would have an idea of what was coming. They could be an expert in their department. People could go to them and ask questions. So we wanted to give them a heads up. And then we had a presentation of the same information for all faculty members. This was, people were able to come live. They wanted to come be there in the room. It was streaming. We have 4 campuses, and so we knew that not everybody would be able to get over to our campus in time for the presentation. So we wanted to make sure people could access it from wherever they were, or if they didn't have to be on campus that day, that they could get to it online. We recorded it, emailed it, and uploaded it to the intranet so people could go online and access it at any time. We took feedback from people, made a couple of changes, and then presented to the curriculum committee, submitted the new plans to the system office, and they were included in our 2013-2014 catalog. Okay, so the question that I received was, will we have to make further changes in the AA after the articulation agreement is approved? Yes, so we will have to make changes to our AA and our AS based on the articulation agreement. The articulation agreement trumps what individual colleges do with their plans, and while there is some flexibility within those plans for individual colleges to make gen ed requirements, certain courses requirements, but we will have to change the plan in our catalog for next year if the new CAA is approved in February. And that is one of the challenges that we faced in this process. So what has worked through everything? This was supported by research, not just the research that other people from organizations like the Community College Research Center have done, but the research that our group conducted. There was a lot of buy-in from the working group, and conducting their own research was much more meaningful to them than having somebody hand that information over. As an example, the faculty member from English Humanities taught mainly film classes, but through the research we conducted on transferability, he saw that most of those film classes were not accepted as general education requirements at universities, and so he cut his own courses from the core and said, you know, if it's better that students take these humanities courses, we should give them those and not push the courses just because they're the ones that I like to teach. We had a small representative group of faculty. This was much easier for communication. It was representative in that the faculty member would go back to their department, talk to their department about the proposed changes, and come to the team with the ideas from the department. But it eliminated the bottlenecks that come from having 30, 40, 50 faculty members all in the room arguing about their specific courses they teach and the benefits and downsides for courses. So to have just the representative group facilitated communication and got the process moving better than if we had had a larger group. We focused on engagement from the start of the process to the end. So as I mentioned, we asked department chairs who should be involved and let them know about the project at the very beginning. Faculty made up the program realignment team and then represented the other faculty in their department. They held conversations within the department about the changes. We took their feedback and changed the plans based on what they offered. And then we had the chairs, the presentations to the chairs and to the general faculty. Some challenges. The Gen Ed core at Guilford Tech for this catalog year was more restrictive than the state. So sometimes there would be some confusion about, well, if I take 114 instead of 112, is it still going to count? Which, yes, it would still count. And then trying to explain to the student why they should take the 112 instead of the 114. The Gen Ed core will be revised with this articulation agreement that'll be voted on next month. So we knew when we started this process that our degree plans would probably only last for a year. So that was a lot of work for 1 year of degree plans. So the question, is it safe to assume presentations you mentioned were conducted by faculty who had the release time? Yes, it was actually just 2 presentations. It was 1 to chairs and then 1 to faculty, and that's the one that was streamed and uploaded. So it was a commitment of 2 hours total for presentations. And like I said, the amount of work these people did in researching transferability and other things, I think they deserve the release time for the amount of work they did, but it could be done without the release time. Another challenge was scheduling courses and predicting enrollment in those. So for the courses that were formerly considered part of our core that were now considered electives, it was hard to guess what the enrollment was going to be in that. So we had to make some changes kind of late in the registration game because some courses weren't filling up, and so we had to change those to other courses. Communication, as always on a college campus, can be challenging. Some of the advisors in our Student Success Center didn't understand that the new programs were the programs. They weren't recommendations. That was the degree requirement. So it took a little while to communicate to them and clear up misunderstandings about what was required. Moving forward with the process, after the initial group of programs, we took a different approach for the remaining Associate of Applied Science programs because most of our time working with the committee, and that work happened from late August to early December. So we got those 5 programs aligned during that short time. But most of that time period was spent with the college transfer programs, going back and forth about courses and figuring out which ones would be the best for students. And when it came time to discuss business and computers, those decisions happened really fast. And so we didn't think we needed to pull together a big committee meeting of people in those programs. And we took a different approach as a departmental self-study. We did not address the programs that have already been restructured by system-wide SIPs because those are very streamlined and prescriptive as they are. But for faculty in the other programs, we sent an email to the department chairs, gave them examples from our realigned programs, general things like using a contextualized course, eliminating a local elective, restructuring, resequencing things differently. Ask some guiding questions, ask yourself these 5 questions, and then offered assistance and expertise. We held some meetings with people to talk about ways they could possibly change their programs, and then those department chairs were responsible for taking those changes through the curriculum committee. I can't say that everybody on campus has tried to change their program, but we have had quite a few department chairs go to the curriculum committee, narrow down choices of electives, because that makes sense to people. If you are in a criminal justice program, does it make sense that your students take an ethics course, for example? So let the departments figure out what electives best suit the students in those programs and would best benefit those students throughout their time. Another thing that we're doing at Guilford Tech is studying the effectiveness of our prerequisites, and these are our local prereqs. We're not tackling state prereqs right now, but we have quite a few local prereqs on our courses. Our institutional research department gathered data and has a long chart of how prereqs affect student success in the subsequent class, and we are dividing that into the courses offered by certain departments. So we've sent those on to the department chairs along with a tutorial video and text instructions for how to look at the data, and then asked the department chairs to justify their decision whether they want to keep or remove that prereq from their course, because we don't have sufficient data for before and after addition of a prereq to be able to look at success before and after. Another thing that we're doing with prereqs is we've made some local prereqs co-reqs, and we've done that for the past 3 semesters, and we finally have enough students to generate usable data, a strong enough population that we can have some confidence in our results. And so we're going to look at that to inform our choice of local prerequisites, and so that affects how we structure our programs. So what's on track or coming up next for us? We're looking at the success, persistence, completion of the students with the revised plans to see if they do better than the students in the old plans. We are focusing very heavily this semester on advisor training. We're starting a new advising model at Guilford Tech and training people on the programs, how to read the catalog. It sounds very simplistic, but there are quite a few people who've been out of advising for a while and they don't even have a copy of the catalog. And so by helping to familiarize them with the catalog and how to read it and understand it, convey that to students, we think that's going to help students stick to the programs. We are incorporating the Student Success Plan software that you've probably heard about, the one that's developed at Sinclair Community College in Ohio, that has a program map for the students and indicates what they should take semester by semester, and keeping the conversation going. So this is a common topic here on campus. People know that we're focused on that. We're looking at our programs, we're looking at our prereqs, and it's not just a flash in the pan initiative that we're going to look at per semester and forget about it. No, we're serious about this, and I think people know that. Okay, the question from Denise, what advising model are we following? We are moving to a faculty advising model where faculty will be assigned a caseload of advisees in their programs, and they will have to check in with their advisees every other semester. We chose the every other semester as opposed to every semester because of the caseload. The caseload per semester was going to be too high if we had to have faculty remove advising holds from every student in their caseload each semester. And so we looked at our data, student course taking patterns, and realized that if we did every other semester, in addition to the very first semester where they're advised in orientation, so they'd be advised in orientation, then the subsequent semester, and then move to an every other semester, that we're meeting with the students twice in their first 2 semesters, and then once we have their academic plan developed, the advising meetings will be more check-ins, see if you're still on track, what other issues you're facing. So we are moving to that faculty advising model. Just to wrap up this conversation, through the whole process, we focused on what is best for students. Our computer technologies faculty member told the rest of the committee a story about a faculty meeting that they had talking about what courses, how they should restructure their degrees, and he said the other faculty were saying, but this is my course, this is what I teach, this is the best course, we need to offer this one at these times, and it kind of got out of hand, and he stopped and said, if you're not talking about student success, I'm finished here. And I think it snapped everybody back into focus and showed them what was important in this conversation and in the process. And so we do need to be considerate of faculty needs and They are a very important stakeholder at the college, but we need to ask ourselves what is best for students in this whole process. Is it really helping students to have a 73-hour program when they could officially get the degree in 64? Can we justify those 3 extra classes? Does that make them more employable? And our business faculty member decided no, it doesn't. So we trimmed it, not all the way, but somewhat. Another question that I've gotten about the advising load. The advising load, the student advisor ratio, is different depending on the department. It really varies. Some of our allied health programs have fewer than 10 students per advisor. Some of our other programs like business and culinary are closer to 70. But because the caseload is split for every other semester, they're going to see roughly half of those in any one semester. For somebody with a caseload of 70, they might see 40 one semester and 30 the next. So they would never see all of their students in one semester unless the students just all wanted to come by, but the holds would not be placed on all student accounts. What other questions do people have?
That may be it for the questions.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Kristi. That was very, very interesting and informative.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed the opportunity.
It was well done, too. As we wrap up, I'd like to remind everyone that today's presentation was recorded and will be available on demand excuse me, at successnc.org within a week, possibly within just the next couple of days. All participants in today's presentation will receive an automated message when that becomes available. I also invite you to check out successnc.org for other helpful webinars and videos. And one last reminder, our next Completion by Design webinar will be held this Friday, January 17th, 2014. The topic will be Building Stakeholder Engagement, and registration is now available at successnc.org. You'll see a link to the registration page at the close of this presentation. Again, a special thank you to our presenter, Kristi Short of Guilford Tech. Now on behalf of North Carolina Community Colleges and all of us on the Learning Solutions team, thanks to all of you for your participation. So long, everyone.